We're going to get started from Lakeside Lanes at Manchester, New Hampshire. This is the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. My name is Steve Kelly, and I will be your host and guide during this Class B North doubleheader match between today's challengers, John Alosa at McCoole and Rob Brown at Faye, Sawyer. Good as always to have you along with us, originally live streamed on Friday, March 22nd, 2024, and available for rewatching anytime upon the conclusion of this match. If you are new to the ACST or Candlepin Bowling in general, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you and I hope you enjoy this match and Candlepin Bowling as a whole. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Your continued viewership is greatly appreciated. For those with any audio or visual impairments, I would like to highlight two things. First, this broadcast will be available with subtitles and live captioning. I will also be providing audible descriptions of the play-by-play action as well as scoring to the best of my ability. If you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comments. McCoole starting out hot with a spare on lane 24. Very quick to start out. And John Alosa finishes off with a 9-box on lane 23. Start off this doubleheader. The bowlers are bowling head-to-head tonight. So to recap, John Alosa with a... John Alosa with a 9. McCoole with a spare. As I quickly correct my own scoreboard here. McCoole filling with a 6. John Alosa off the headpin to the right, but getting some backdoor action for a favorable drop for a spare leave opportunity. These bowlers are bowling head-to-head tonight. McCoole for his second spare of the night. Will he get it? Nearly does. The diamond wins again, though, with the 5-pin remaining on the deck. John Alosa for his spare now. He misses the spare as well. So Casey with a 6 fill on his spare. John Alosa markless. McCoole for the 10-box. He will get that 10-box for 26 after 2. John Alosa will take a 10-box for 19 after 2. Our bowlers are bowling head-to-head tonight, so we have John Alosa, the away bowler, versus home bowler McCoole here at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. McCoole off to the right of the headpin, taking out the 6-pin and a friend. John Alosa off the headpin to the left, leaving the 1, the 3, the 6, the 9, and the 7 pins. McCoole trying to get a spare, but he misses off to the right, taking out just 1. Alosa for his spare, he's off the headpin to the left. Off the headpin is the operative word of the night so far after 2 boxes in this doubleheader. The 2 bowlers you see bowling before you are bowling head-to-head. They are our challengers tonight. After they are done their first 5, then Faye Sawyer and Rob Brown will be joining. Will be taking the approaches. That's a 9-box for John Alosa. And McCoole took a 7-box. McCoole at 33 after 3. John Alosa at 28 after 3. McCoole spread eagle and then some. 5 drop on lane 24. John Alosa's first ball on lane 23 is completely off to the right of the headpin. Wide right wild pitch, taking out only the 10-pin. McCoole for a spare. And he sails through the void. The void stares back. 5 down, 5 up. John Alosa, meanwhile, attempting a remedial spare opportunity, takes all but 2. McCoole will settle for a 7-box. And John Alosa will go for a 10-box. John Alosa still fishing for marks, but he's currently averaging about 9.5 after 4, with 38 after 4. McCoole with 40 after 4. Here at this Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour Class B North doubleheader at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire on this Friday evening. John Alosa dropping 6, dropping 7, dropping 8. McCoole dropping 6. Meanwhile, John Alosa with the 1 and the 8 pins on lane 23. Casey with the right side check mark, the 3, the 5, the 6, and the 10 pins. Both bowlers have favorable spare leaves. Let's see what McCoole can do. On lane 24, he fires. Hits a little bit too full, leaving the 6 and the 10 pins. John Alosa now for his spare. He gets his first spare of the match. And the 50-50 is worth 71 bucks, in case anyone wants to know. McCoole will settle for an 8-box, meanwhile. So after 5, here's your score update. We have John Alosa at an open 48 after 5, 48 plus a ball. And we have Casey McCoole at a closed 48 after 5. Both bowlers with 1 mark, bowling nearly identical, but John Alosa has the edge with a fill opportunity. But now we will be shifting gears to our second match of the night, to Rob Brown and Faye Sawyer. Rob Brown with a season record of 86 and 110 with 14 matches bowled so far. Faye Sawyer, meanwhile, with a season record of 62 and 120 with 13 matches bowled so far. Faye Sawyer is on the right on lane 24 starting out. She is the home bowler, and Rob Brown is the away bowler from Riverwalk Lanes, Amesbury, Massachusetts. This is in Manchester, New Hampshire at Lakeside Lanes. Faye Sawyer dropping 5 off the headpin to the right, leaving the 4 horseman left side plus the 9 pin. Rob Brown off the headpin to the right as well, dropping 3. Faye Sawyer with a spare leave. The 1-2 pocket should take this out. Faye Sawyer fires. A little bit too full on the headpin, taking out only the headpin. Rob Brown full on the headpin, but with a favorable drop, leaving the 4 and the 7 pins. Faye Sawyer now looking at a 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 box opportunity. Faye Sawyer will take that 10 box. That was a very pretty slow-moving 10 box from Faye Sawyer, and Rob Brown will follow up with a 10 box of his own. Both bowlers even at 10 after 1. Your score update in case you missed Alosa and McCoole after 5. Brown and Sawyer both sit at 10 after 1. Faye Sawyer with a home record of 17 and 67 and an away record of 45 and 53. She drops 3 off the left side. Rob Brown with a strike. That is the first strike of the night. Rob Brown, known for strikes, he does not disappoint. First strike of the match. First strike of the game, just the first strike, period, by Rob Brown. Faye Sawyer, meanwhile, with a spare leave opportunity. There's 7 pins on the deck, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, the 6, the 9, and the 10 pins. On lane 24 at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire, you are watching the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Class B North doubleheader. Faye Sawyer for the spare. She's just slightly off the headpin by mere millimeters. She leaves the 1, the 2, and the 6 pins on the deck. Faye Sawyer now looking at a 7, 8, 9, or 10 box opportunity. Faye Sawyer averages 101.11 for the season, and that will be an 8 box for Faye Sawyer in the second for 18 after 2. With Rob Brown 20 plus 2 balls in the second. Rob Brown will now be attempting a double strike, but Faye Sawyer will bowl first. Faye Sawyer on lane 24. Faye Sawyer averages 99.8 at home, 102.3 and win away. She drops 6. Rob Brown for the double. He leaves, my goodness, the 5, the 7, the 10 with no wood. Dropping 7, but a very difficult spare leave for Rob Brown. Look at that, 5, 7, 10. No wood at all. That's a difficult shot in Candlepin. Faye Sawyer, though, with a spare of her own. Plenty of action here in this Class B North doubleheader. Rob Brown will settle for a 7 box and a 7 fill and a 7 box for 34 after 3. Faye Sawyer now working on a fill, working on a spare. Faye Sawyer working on a spare. It will be a 5. Rob Brown dropping 6, dropping 7, leaving the 6, the 9, and the 10 pins on the deck. Both bowlers with spare leaves. Faye Sawyer with the 4 horseman right side plus the 8 pin. The 1-3 pocket should take this out. And she will take out all but the head pin, missing that pocket. Rob Brown will gutter ball to the right of the 6, 9, 10 split. No marks for either bowler in the 4th, though both bowlers have marked so far in this half. Every bowler has had a mark in the first half of the first game so far. Faye Sawyer for the 10 box. She's going to take a 9 box for 42. And Rob Brown will go to 44 after 4 with that 10 box. Here's your score update. Faye Sawyer's at 42 after 4. Rob Brown at 44 after 4. Bowlers are bowling head-to-head tonight. Faye Sawyer on lane 24. Opening ball, the 5th frame. She drops more than 6. She drops 7. Rob Brown now fires on the head pin, drops 8. The 4 and the 7. Faye Sawyer has the 4, 7, and 10. Faye Sawyer has a decent leave with 3 pieces of wood, but she doesn't quite hit them in a favorable manner. She's still left with 7. Rob Brown for his spare. Piece of wood spins close, but doesn't take the 7 pin. And now we are going to pause briefly to check on a piece of wood that may be out. Let's take a look at some standings between our divisional situations. John Alosa is the divisional leader of Division 1 in the B class. Rob Brown not too far behind with 86 and 110. He's been on a bit of a bounce back for the past couple matches. Casey McCoole, meanwhile, second in Division 4, but behind Eric Halley Sr. by a fair amount. Faye Sawyer in 3rd place. And here's where we are in the averages overall to give you a bit of an idea in terms of where our bowlers are at. John Alosa in 17th in the class overall. We have Faye, Casey, and Rob down in 28, 30, and 31. And we're now going to resume the bowling here after Casey has checked that pin out, and it was out. So Faye Sawyer's going for a 10 box now. She's going to take a 9 box. And Rob Brown will take a 10 box. So after all is said and done, Rob Brown sits at 54 after 5. Faye Sawyer at 51 after 5. Now John Alosa and Casey McCoole will be returning to the approaches. John Alosa finished his first half with 48 plus a ball on a spare. Casey McCoole finished with an 8 box with just a closed 48. He had his mark in the first. So John Alosa has a big ball right here. He's going to be filling a spare right now. Stay tuned here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour on lane 24 at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. John Alosa will fill that spare with 5 for 53 to conclude his first half. Casey McCoole with his signature right-handed ball that curves into the center from the right corner. He checks 2. Right side half Worcester. John Alosa punches out the head pin and only the head pin. Casey McCoole drops a few more. 6 down, 4 up, 6 down. Neither bowler marking. Alosa for the 10. He checks 9. And McCoole will settle for an 8 box. 56 and 6 for Casey McCoole. 62 and 6 for John Alosa. Talk about John Alosa, the divisional leader. He has a record of 114 and 82 with 14 matches bowled so far. He has a home record of 50 and 48 and a away record of 64 and 34. John Alosa on the head pin, and he gets robbed of a strike. He's left with the 2, I believe, the 4 and the 8 pins. Casey McCoole throws 2 full and chops out the right side half Worcester plus an additional friend. For the spare, Alosa can't quite finish off the last 2 pins. The 4 pin standing tall. Casey trying his best to make something out of a half Worcester plus, but he's left with a 7-10 split. John Alosa will finish with a 9. McCoole finished with an 8. 9-8, 9-8 seems to be the theme for these 2 bowlers, with Alosa at 71 after 7 and Casey McCoole at 64 after 7. Casey McCoole has a record of 73 and 123 with a home record of 38 and 46 and a away record of 35 and 77. Casey McCoole does better when he's home rather than away. Both bowlers left with somewhat ugly leaves. John Alosa with the 1, 2, 7, and 8 pins. He doesn't connect with the 1, 2 pocket, but he gets some wood bounce back, left with only the 8 pin on the deck. Casey McCoole with a much more interesting leave. 3 down, 7 up, and he can't seem to make much of it despite hitting the wood. Takes out very little. John Alosa will check 10. Casey McCoole will go for 5. Alosa at 81 after 8. And Casey McCoole 69 after 5. Just double checking with the electronic scoreboard to make sure we're in sync. And we are. John Alosa dropping 5. Excuse me, 6, not 5. Can't count today. Casey McCoole drops 2 on the left side, on the far left, the 4 and the 7 pins. John Alosa for the spare, and he leaves with the 5 pin. Casey McCoole sails the ball right where the first ball went. Can't give him double for that. John Alosa going for a 10 box. He will get that 10 box. Casey McCoole, a remedial ball. He's trying to get something better than effectively a 3, but he will take a 7 box. 76 in 9 for Casey McCoole, 91 in 9 for John Alosa. Casey McCoole's season average is 100.2. John Alosa's season average is 108.9. Alosa on the head pin, pretty ball, but doesn't quite get the break that he's looking for. The 4 and the 7 pins left on the deck. Could be a layup of a spare. Casey McCoole off the head pin to the right, drops 7. 1, 2, and 4 pins left on the deck. Alosa with the 4 and the 7 now for a spare opportunity. Alosa for the spare, and he misses off the left, taking only the 7 pin out, leaving the 4 pin. McCoole for... He will take a spare. He needed that one. It's an open 86 for Casey McCoole. So Alosa checks 10 for 101 in his first. Casey with an 86 plus a ball. And that ball will be thrown right now. Casey McCoole, home average of 100.6 at Lakeside Lanes, away average of 99.9, remarkably consistent. Casey McCoole will fill 6 on that spare for 92. After 1, we have Casey McCoole ceding 2 points to John Alosa, 92 to 101. The away bowler triumphs. A 1-mark 101 for John Alosa, a 2-mark 92 for Casey McCoole. Now we have Rob Brown and Faye Sawyer returning to the approaches. Both bowlers markless in the 5th. Faye Sawyer with a 51 and 5. Rob Brown with a 54 and 5. Rob Brown with the only strike of the match so far. Rob Brown on lane 24. The bowlers have switched lanes. He throws a little bit too hard. Pins are still falling, though. He drops 6. The 1, the 7, the 9, and the 10 pins with some favorable wood for a leave. Faye Sawyer's first ball. Here it comes. Down on the center. Banana split. The 4, 6, 7, 10. Rob Brown for a spare, and he throws it fast. The 9 and the 10 pins are left. No spare for Rob Brown. Faye Sawyer with a 4, 6, 7, and 10 on the deck. This will be a difficult leave for Faye Sawyer. She will elect to take the easy route. Just take out the 4 and the 7 pins. Just take the pins. Rob Brown will settle for a 9 box. Faye Sawyer for an 8, 9, or 10 now on lane 23. Sawyer fires. And she checks 10, beating Rob Brown's 9 in that box. Close match for these two. Rob Brown at 63 after 6. Faye Sawyer at 61 after 6. This is the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. If you're just tuning in, you're in for a treat tonight. This is a doubleheader match, and we are at Lakeside Lanes tonight. We're having a fantastic time in Manchester, New Hampshire, watching John Alosa, Casey McCoole, Rob Brown, and Faye Sawyer. If you're wondering what the heck the ACST is, this is the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, a season-long series of one-on-one Candlepin bowling matches between challengers organized into classes and divisions competing for playoff contention. And Faye Sawyer with a spare. Faye Sawyer with a spare, Rob Brown with a 9. Just catching up on the scores here. Rob Brown at 72 after 7. Faye Sawyer at an open 71 after 7. This match is very tight. Rob Brown just missing off the head pin, dropping 7. Faye Sawyer on the head pin. There it is. She drops 6. The 7, 10, 5, and 6. Rob Brown, the 5, 6, and 10. He misses that spare leave. It was a difficult leave. Piece of wood had to be hit just the right way, but he misses it. Faye Sawyer now with a somewhat difficult leave, too. Throwing the ball to the right of the 5 pin will probably take it, but it has to kiss the wood to the right, and she doesn't. She only takes the 5 pin. Both bowlers missing their marks. Rob Brown with an 8 box. Faye Sawyer filling that spare with 6 for 77, and she's going to take an additional 9, putting her at 86 in 8. Take a breather here to show you the scores. So 80 for Rob Brown in the 8th, 86 for Faye Sawyer in the 8th. Rob Brown drops 8, 5 in the 10 pins on the deck. Faye Sawyer now. Rob Brown with a season record of 86 and 110. His away record is actually better than his home record by a country mile, 55 and 29 versus the home record of 31 and 81. Faye Sawyer drops 5, 4 horsemen left side plus the 9 pin. Rob Brown, first ball, dropped the 5 and the 10 pins. Rob Brown for the spare. He takes only the 10 pin out, leaving only the 5 pin staring him back. Faye Sawyer with a 5 to spare range here. She takes just a few more out. 7, 8, 9, or 10 box opportunity now for Faye Sawyer. Rob Brown for 9 or 10. Will he check 10? He checks 9, unfortunately. 89 after 9 for Rob Brown. Faye Sawyer with a 7, 8, 9, or 10. The 1, the 7, and the 9 pins are left on the deck for Faye Sawyer. Faye Sawyer will take a 7. 93 and 9 for Faye Sawyer, and 89 and 9 for Rob Brown. Still a very tight match between these two bowlers. With 1 box to go, 1 strike to go for both of these bowlers. Rob Brown is known for strikes. See what Rob Brown could do with a season average of 103.7. He checks 2 down with the half Worcester right side, the 2 and the 9 pins. Faye Sawyer, meanwhile, first ball, final first ball of the first game. She drops only a few pins. The 4 horsemen right side plus the 5, the 7, and the 8 pins. Rob Brown drops all but the 10 pin. No mark for Rob Brown's final mark for final box, that is. Faye Sawyer now for a spare. Doesn't connect with the object pin. She's left with the 1, the 7, and the 8 pins. Rob Brown for the 10. He's going to foul out a 9. Going into the gutter and taking out a pin doesn't count in official Candlepin bowling rules. Faye Sawyer for the 10 box. She'll settle for a 9 box. That's 102 for Faye Sawyer taking the first game versus Rob Brown's 98. So in the first game, the folks that have taken points are Faye Sawyer, the home bowler, versus Rob Brown, the away bowler. Meanwhile, John Alosa, the away bowler, to Casey McCoole, the home bowler. John Alosa takes 2. So Faye Sawyer and John Alosa will take 2 points in the first game. But enough about the first game. Let's move right ahead to the second game here. Casey McCoole and John Alosa are now returning to the approaches. Casey McCoole fires. So Casey McCoole's home record is 38 and 46 with an away record of 35 and 77. His home record is better than his away record. John Alosa dropping a 9, 9.5. Some backdoor action, leaving only the 3 pin. Casey McCoole dropped 8. Just missing that spare, curling around. John Alosa for his spare. He will nail that spare. Casey McCoole will take a 10 box. Just waiting on the PA system. There's a league going on at Lakeside Lanes, and they're currently announcing a 50-50 raffle. John Alosa will be filling a spare. Casey McCoole just trying to get a strike. Casey McCoole on lane 24. He's off the head pin to the left, dropping 4. John Alosa filling that spare with 7. Decent drop despite missing the head pin. Here's our spare leave opportunities. Casey has the 4 horsemen right side. The 4 horsemen right side, a.k.a. the 1, the 3, the 6, and the 10 pins, but he also has the 5 and the 9 pins behind it to contend with. We call the pins behind the main pins sleeper pins. And he misses the head pin just barely, but he kisses the piece of wood behind it, leaving only the 9 pin. The 1 pin. 9 down with the 1 pin. John Alosa misses his spare, leaving the 7 pin on the deck. Casey McCoole for the 10 box. He'll settle for a 9 box. John Alosa will take a 9 box as well. John Alosa at 26 after 2. Casey McCoole at 19 after 2. Appreciate you watching. Everyone at home and here physically at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. And we'll take a look at some standings. We have John Alosa really lighting up the superlatives. He's number 3 in total 10s and number 10 in total strikes. Rob Brown, meanwhile, still hanging on in total 10s with 154 for the season. Casey McCoole fires. He hits only the 4 pin. Some might call that a lemon drop. Alosa right on the head pin, right on the pocket, leaves the 6 pin on the deck. Casey McCoole for his spare opportunity. He misses the object pin to the right this time. John Alosa with the lone 6 pin with some wood. a deceptive piece of wood in front of the 6-pin. If he caps it, it might not go. But he does take it. He misses that hazard for another spare for John Alosa. 36 plus a ball. McCoole for a 10 box now. He will take a 6 box for 25. After 2. 25 after 3, that is. 36 plus a ball for John Alosa after the 3rd. McCoole trying to get started. Casey McCoole is overall 3rd place. Look at that strike by Casey McCoole. Won't even let me speak. That's okay. That's what we like to see here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. There's a strike for Casey McCoole. Getting started, and getting started he did. John Alosa drops 8, the 9, the 10 pins. Could be a spare if he hits the piece of wood right, but he sails off to the left. Wide left on the goalposts. Nowhere near the 9, the 10 pins. Alosa, 8 fill with a 9 box. That puts him at 53 after 4. And Casey McCoole is at an open 35 after 4 plus 2 balls for the fill. So it could be 35 plus whatever it is he ends up getting. Casey McCoole on lane 24 at Lakeside Lanes. His first ball fill is 5. Alosa drops 7 despite not hitting the head pin. That's Candlepin for you. McCoole, his spare leave. He hits the object pin in the object pocket, but he gets nothing, and he's visibly frustrated on that one. John Alosa for his spare. He drops everything but the head pin, so Casey filled his strike with 7 for 42 after 4, and he will conclude his 5th box with 50 with that 8 box. John Alosa with that 9 box is at 62. An action-packed first half for John Alosa and Casey McCoole. At least one mark apiece. John Alosa with 2 marks, sitting at 62 after 5. Casey McCoole at 50 after 5. And we now welcome back Faye Sawyer and Rob Brown to the approaches on lanes 23 and 24 here at Lakeside Lanes. Faye Sawyer is 4th in B North Division 1 behind Casey McCoole, David LaRoche, and Eric Halley Sr. She's overall 16th in B North. Her high single is 127, and it was against Jeff Little in Week 10. Her high series is 548, and it was against Eric Halley Sr. in Week 2. Faye Sawyer fires down lane 24 and drops a handful of pins, a small handful, as does Rob Brown, right side half Worcester. The 2 and the 9 pins knocked into next week. Faye Sawyer's spare leave required hitting the 1-3 pocket. She hits the 3-6 pocket instead, leaving the high-low jack, the 1-7-10. Rob Brown nearly converting the half Worcester to a spare, leaving only the 2 pin on the deck. Faye Sawyer for a 10 box, the traditional high-low jack with some additional wood along the 7 and the 10 pins. She checks the head pin down, and only the head pin for an 8 box. Rob Brown will take a 10 box. Rob Brown checking 10. Sawyer taking 8. Appreciate you having you along with us on this Friday night. This doubleheader action at Lakeside Lanes, a very busy Lakeside Lanes. We like to see busy Candlepin houses. We like to see these places in business and doing well. Lakeside Lanes is certainly doing well tonight. Faye Sawyer dropping 6, the 3, 6, 10, 7. Rob Brown with another strike. Rob Brown showing us how strikes are made at Lakeside Lanes. Faye Sawyer for the spare, and she gets it. An unexpected spare leave going down. Faye Sawyer throws a slow ball, but it ends up resulting in a lot of pin action that you wouldn't normally see from bowlers who throw any harder than that. That's the thing about Candlepin bowling. If you throw slower, don't be discouraged about that, because sometimes you can get some spares that bowlers who throw at 500 miles an hour won't get. Now Faye Sawyer on lane 24, nearly getting a strike. That was a faster ball, actually, and she dropped everything but the 10 pin. Rob Brown filling his strikes so far with 7. Oh, and Faye Sawyer was filling out spare with 9. My apologies. I forgot she was also on a mark. She's at 27 after 2. Rob Brown with 7 plus. Faye Sawyer missing that second spare. Rob Brown also missing it, a spare opportunity. So Rob Brown will fill that spare with that strike with 7. Both bowlers at 27 after 2. Faye Sawyer will check 10. Rob Brown will check 8. So our our score update, we have Rob Brown at 35 after 3, Faye Sawyer at 37 after 3. Again, a very tight match between these two bowlers. Faye Sawyer, despite her record, is putting up quite a fight against Rob Brown tonight, defending the homeland. This is her home house of Lakeside Lanes, Manchester, New Hampshire. Faye Sawyer dropping everything but the 9 and the 10. We have Rob Brown throwing a bomb down the lane, leaving the 4 and the 10 pins on the deck. Spare leaves for both of our bowlers. Faye's is a little bit easier. Will she get it? She takes out the 9, uses the wood, tries to play the wood, but Rob Brown just goes direct for the 4 pin, opting for the pins rather than the mark. Both bowlers for 9 or 10 now. Faye Sawyer versus the 10 pin. The 10 pin's in the back right corner. Faye Sawyer will foul that off for a 9. Rob Brown, meanwhile, will take a 10 box. And our bowlers are within 1 point of one another. 1 pin within one another, that is. Rob Brown at 45 after 4 and Faye Sawyer at 46 after 4 with 1 box to go before they sit, and our other 2 bowlers return to the approaches. Faye Sawyer fires on lane 24. First ball of the 5th frame, drops 5. Rob Brown dropping 6 on lane 23. The 1, the 3, the 4, and the 7 pins on the deck. Faye Sawyer now. Looks like an additional pin fell, so she's looking at the 4 horsemen left side. The 1, the 2, the 4, and the 7 pins. Faye Sawyer. Will she get it? Oh, she just misses the head pin just by a little bit. That would have gone otherwise. It looked like it was on its way. Rob Brown misses the head pin to the right, hitting only the 3 pin. 8, 9, or 10 for Faye Sawyer. 7, 8, 9, or 10 for Rob Brown. Faye Sawyer misses the head pin, will take 8. Rob Brown will take 10. The bowler's laughing about that one. Rob Brown will sit with a 55 after 5, and Faye Sawyer will sit with 54 after 5. We are at the end of the first half of the second game here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. It's a very close match, particularly between Rob Brown and Faye Sawyer. Faye Sawyer at 156 and Rob Brown at 153. Casey McCoole trails John Alosa 142 to 163 meanwhile. John Alosa fires, nearly getting a strike, dropping 9.5, leaving only the 4 on the deck. Strikes are definitely happening tonight. Casey McCoole on that 1-3 pocket, dropping 6, almost 7. Is it going to be 7? That 10 pin keeps thinking about it. Rob Brown for the spare, and the wood dances all around the 4 pin and doesn't take it. Casey McCoole, it's the 2, the 7, the 8, and the 10 pins on the deck with some favorable wood. That's a decent leave. That orange pin piece of wood in particular might be the key. Let's see what Casey McCoole can do. His ball hooks left. And he doesn't play the wood. He only hits the front piece of the front pin directly, taking out all but the 7 pin. John Alosa will check 9. Casey McCoole for the 10 box. He will take the 10 box, though, winning the skin for that round. 60 and 6 for Casey McCoole. John Alosa at 71 after 6. John Alosa, he is the divisional leader of Class B North Division 1, ahead of Jacob Morrill, Joe Moose Stalemata, and Rob Brown. He's overall 3rd in B North. His high single is 146. He bowled that in Week 3 versus Joe Rochelo. And his high series is 614, bowled in Week 7 versus Tony Levesque. John Alosa for a spare, and that's a spare for John Alosa. Casey McCoole struggling. Casey McCoole for a 10 box now. That is a spare. I was just checking with the bowlers on the electronic scoreboard. Casey McCoole now looking at a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 box. Check mark right side plus a 7 pin. He leaves only the 7 pin for a 9 box. Decent out. 69 after 7 for Casey McCoole. Very nice. John Alosa with an open 81 after 7 meanwhile. John Alosa on lane 24 at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. Just gave a visual nod to Tim Lipke. Said hi. Tim Lipke is the owner of Lakeside Lanes. He's an awesome guy. He keeps this place looking and sounding amazing, by the way. Not to sound like a broken record, but Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. If you want to check this place out, please do. And John Alosa with another spare. That was a 7-fill spare for John Alosa, keeping it competitive. Casey McCoole just getting, for lack of a better term, ripped off by some of these shots. He's left with only the 10 pin on the deck. Casey McCoole, this will be a tough shot for him. He fouls it. It's going to be a 9-box for Casey McCoole for 78 after 8. For McCoole, John Alosa had an open 98, plus a ball in the 8th. Your score update. Verified with the electronic scoreboard. Lakeside Lanes utilizes CompuScore, an oldie but goodie electronic scoring system. Everything is manual at Lakeside Lanes. The resetting is manual, the scoring is manual. But it just works in a very Apple-like fashion. John Alosa filled 7 on his spare for 105, crossing the 100 threshold. But he fails to get the 3rd spare in a row, missing that head pin. Casey McCoole, he will get a spare. Casey McCoole still in it. Open 88. Alosa will check 10 for 115 and 9. Alosa at 115 and 9. McCoole at 88 plus a ball in the 9th. Alosa, lane 24. He fires on the head pin, and he takes a strike. Look at that. John Alosa adding on to that 115 pile. What a pile it is. Oops. There we go. My apologies. Recently made some renovations to my scoreboard, and inputting marks can sometimes be a bit of a incantation on my part. Casey McCoole for the spare. He misses it, leaving only the 10 pin. He filled that spare with 7, by the way. Casey McCoole for a 10 box. Could be a potential 105. It's going to be a 104 with a 9 box. Fouled 9 box. So Casey McCoole finishes over 100, 104 over average, but John Alosa just can't be caught. He's got 125 plus 2 more balls here. He's not finished yet. Hashtag not done yet. Alosa almost with a double strike. He's at a 9 fill so far. 9 plus whatever ends up happening here. So it could be a potential 135 game. Will he get a 9 or a 10 fill? Let's find out. That's a 10 fill. That's 135 for John Alosa. A 5 mark. Spectacular game by John Alosa. 135. Casey McCoole with a 2 mark 104. But taking Casey McCoole by 31 pins, John Alosa is comfortably at 236 for a 2-game total. Casey McCoole at a 196 2-game total. But anyways, we're going to shift the focus back to Rob Brown and Faye Sawyer. We have Rob Brown on lane 24. Home average of 100.2 and an away average of 108.4. Rob Brown drops 8, leaving the 2 and the 8 pins. Faye Sawyer's first ball. She fires on lane 23. On the pocket, she drops 8 as well. Staying competitive. Rob Brown throws a very hard ball, while Faye throws a very light ball. Rob Brown will spare that for, you guessed it, a spare. Amazing. So Rob Brown will spare it. Faye Sawyer working on the 2 and the 5 pins now. She will take those. Faye Sawyer will check 10. She said the wood stunk, in case you didn't hear that. Faye Sawyer is sitting at 64 and 6. Rob Brown is sitting at 65 plus a ball after 6. Rob Brown, 3rd place in B North Division 1. He's ahead of Joe Moose de Almeida and behind Jake Morrill and John Alosa. He drops 4, filling that spare with 4. Faye Sawyer drops 6. Rob Brown just kisses the head pin, and it dances around all the pins, except for one in the back row, left side check mark, inverted check. The 2, the 4, the 5, and the 7 pins. Faye Sawyer for her spare on the head pin, but a little bit too full, leaving only the 3 pin. Rob Brown for the 10 box. He's going to take a 7 box. Disappointing 7 box for Rob Brown, just getting kind of ripped off here and there. Faye Sawyer for her 10 box. She will check 10. For 74 and 7 for Faye Sawyer, 76 and 7 for Rob Brown. Apologies, I appear to have a score correction to announce. It appears that Rob had a 9 box in the 4th, just syncing up with the electronic scoreboard. He sits at 75 after 7, my mistake. Faye Sawyer is indeed at 74 after 7. It's possible I missed a foul there, but we'll see. Faye Sawyer dropping 9, leaving only the 6-pin. Rob Brown knocks the 3-pin into next week. He's left with 4 on the deck, 6 down, 4 up. Faye Sawyer with a layup spare opportunity. As long as she doesn't hit that frontmost piece of wood too hard, she will take a spare. Faye Sawyer with a spare. Rob Brown trying his best to take that difficult leave out, but can't quite convert it. Faye Sawyer at 84 plus a ball. Rob Brown at 84 plus without a ball, or plus 0 balls. You know what I mean. They're both at 84. Faye Sawyer is 1 ball up. Rob Brown, again with an awkward leave, leaving the 1, the 3, the 7, the 8, and the 10 pins. Faye Sawyer filling a spare now on the head pin. That's a spread eagle plus. It's a 5 fill for Faye Sawyer. Rob Brown punching full, leaving the 7 and the 10. Faye Sawyer leads 89 to 84 in the 8th against Rob Brown. Faye Sawyer now with the versus a broken eagle. Breaks the eagle even more. The 3, the 6, and the 7 pins. That'll be a 7 box, I believe. No, not a 7 box. She still has 1 more to go. Rob Brown will check 9 for 93 in 9. Faye Sawyer for the 10 box. She will take a 9 box as well for 98 and 9. 98 and 9 for Faye Sawyer. Even 200 total cumulative. Rob Brown 191 cumulative total with a 93 and 9 here in this second game. We're just about to finish. Rob Brown is going to fire down lane 24. And he takes a few. I think that's a respectable few, we'll call it. Faye Sawyer fires from the right corner to the middle, dropping 9. That light ball is really paying off for Faye right now. Rob Brown hits a little bit too hard, a little bit too full, leaving the 3 and the 6, but the 6 pin falls late, just the 3 pin. Both bowlers with 1 pin to go for a 10 box. In this tight match, Faye Sawyer will take 10. Rob Brown will also take 10. Faye Sawyer will take game 2. Faye Sawyer finishes at 108 after 2 for a 2-game total of 210. Rob Brown will finish with 103 for a 2-game total of 201. And to recap, John Alosa with a 135 in the second for a 2-game total of 236. Casey McCoole for a 2-game total of 196. Oh, and my apologies. Faye Sawyer, actually, that was a spare. So she filled that spare with 9. My goodness, that's 2 mistakes on my part already. Faye Sawyer will actually finish with 117, so correction. So Faye Sawyer will actually have a 2-game total of 219. She already had it if it was a 10, but a spare 9 puts her at 117. Faye Sawyer doing excellent tonight. That's 10 pins off of her high single of 127, mind you. But we're going to move on to the third game, wasting no time. Casey McCoole fires on lane 24 for a half Worcester in the first. The 3 and the 9 pins. John Alosa dropping 7, the 5, the 6, and the 10 pins on the deck. My apologies for the score drift there. Sometimes it's tough to keep track of everything during a doubleheader, but we are in sync right now. Casey McCoole with an interesting leave. John Alosa will check a spare. John Alosa doing very well with the marks tonight. Casey McCoole, though, I don't know what to make of this shot. It's a banana split plus the 5 pin. And he did about as much as you could do with that. It'll take a 7 box. But it's early. Still the first box of the third game. John Alosa, 10 plus a ball. Casey McCoole with a closed 7. This is the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. We are having a fantastic time here at Manchester, New Hampshire at Lakeside Lanes. This doubleheader match, John Alosa versus Casey McCoole and Rob Brown versus Faye Sawyer. I hope this broadcast finds you well. Casey McCoole dropping 6, 1, 3, 6, and 8. Rob Brown dropping all but the 6. So filling that spare with 9. McCoole for 6, 7, 8, 9 or spare. He takes 2 more out. The 3 and the 6 pins left on the deck. Alosa for his spare. That's a second spare in a row for John Alosa for 29 plus a ball. Casey McCoole. He's working on getting a 10 box if he can get one. And he will settle for a 9 box. 16 after 2 for Casey McCoole. Everyone involved here, from the bowlers to the staff you cannot see, all appreciate your viewership and interest in this live stream, as well as Candlepin Bowling as a whole. Casey McCoole in the pocket, and wow, he drops. Oh, pins are still falling. I'll hold my comments until then. Left with a 7-10, drops 8 after all is said and done. John Alosa left with a bundle of pins in the center, the 1, the 3, the 5, the 8, and the 9 pins. Get a closer look at that. That pin is definitely out on lane 24 for Casey McCoole. You wouldn't want to hit that anyway. That would not do anyone any good. So while we wait for that, let's quickly look at some stats. Here's John Alosa. Like I said, he's the division leader of B North Division 1 with a crazy season record of 114 and 82. Season average of 108.9. 7,601 total pins. He's bowled 14 matches so far. And here we are with Casey McCoole. He is 15th overall with a season record of 73 and 123 with a season average of 100.6. 7,013 seasonal total pins. He's bowled 14 matches as well. Casey McCoole loves his Indiana Jones hat. He's Indiana Jones himself. He's a connoisseur of Indiana Jones. And Casey McCoole, that was a really cool spare. I would call that really cool for Casey McCoole. That's 26 plus a ball after 3. John Alosa can't convert that. John Alosa cannot convert that bundle of pins into a spare, but how about a 10 box? Just checking, confirming that fill. It was a 5 fill, so he's at 44 after 3. 44 after 3 for Alosa. 26 plus a ball for Casey McCoole after 3. Your score update. Casey McCoole filling a spare with, oh my goodness, getting robbed. That looks like 3. 29 after 3 for McCoole. Alosa dropping all but the 4 horsemen left side. That's 6 down, 4 up. Casey McCoole off the object pocket, leaving 5 pins on the deck. John Alosa doing the same, leaving the 1 and the 7 pins on the deck. McCoole with 5 up, 5 down. Just looking for a 10 box. Fishing for a 10 box, hunting for a 10 box, but he found a 7 box. Alosa will take an 8 box. So here we are for our scores after 4. We have Casey McCoole at 36 after 4 with 1 mark. John Alosa with 2 marks is at 52 after 4. A deck of cards. The Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. If you live in the area and or are willing to make the pilgrimage, the Candlepin bowling community would absolutely appreciate your interest and visitation. Check out candlepin.org and click Go Bowling to find your nearest center if you would like to give this unique regional sport a try. We have Casey McCoole dropping 8 and John Alosa also dropping 8 with spare leaves. Casey McCoole, that's a spare. He's going to sit on a spare for 46 open. John Alosa can't quite answer with the same. He leaves 1 on the deck. Casey McCoole overjoyed that he got 1. He technically got 2 this game so far, but who's counting? John Alosa with 10 for 62 in 5. And there we have it with the dust settled. John Alosa was 62 after 5 here at the halfway point at halftime for these 2 bowlers in particular. Casey McCoole at an open 46 after 5. Here at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. Lakeside Lanes is located right off of exit 1 on Route 101 in Manchester, New Hampshire. I like to think of it as if you're going to the University of New Hampshire from 293, but decide to go bowling instead and veer off the first exit you see on 101. The first exit off of the Massabesic traffic circle after taking exit 1 on 101 and adjacent to the Massabesic Lake. Lakeside Lanes is a humble 24-lane house comprised of all wood lanes and approaches. Lakeside Lanes opened on November 20th, November 27th, 1959, and is nearly the same age as Leda Lanes in Nashua, New Hampshire at roughly 64 years as of January 2024. According to Lakeside Lanes' website, let's pause for that, for celebrating Faye Sawyer's spare. Slow-moving spare is still a spare nonetheless. Rob Brown trying to answer, and he leaves the headpin, though. Noble try. Faye Sawyer on fire tonight. Rob Brown for the 10 box. He'll take a 9 box. Anyways, according to Lakeside Lanes' website, quote, rigid specifications of construction required that they be level to the width of 40 at a 1,000th of an inch. And when I mean they, I mean the lanes. So precise that setting the wood alone required more than a month's time. Faye Sawyer will fill that spare with 6. Fill of more than 5 is often quite welcome in Candlepin. At least that's my opinion. Rob Brown dropping 6 with a spare leave opportunity. Let's take a look at this. Faye Sawyer needs to very carefully take the object pins on the right side. She hits a little bit too full on the 3-pin for that to happen. Rob Brown for the spare. Some pinball action, almost taking everything out, but the 7-pin remains. And we have a ball in the gutter and a pin in the gutter for Rob Brown. Faye Sawyer will check 9. Rob Brown will check 10. Here we are. Rob Brown is at 19 after 2. Faye Sawyer is at 25 after 2. Allegedly, Lakeside Lanes has a soundproofing system in which 85% of all sound is absorbed. That's what the website says. Again, owner Tim Lipke, his son Shane Lipke, and Bobby Greco, as well as plenty of other staff here, do an amazing job keeping this place looking and sounding and feeling great. Tons of leagues, really fun and unique pools for things such as 4 strikes in a row, 50 over your average, and the orange pin pool. And the orange pin pool is basically, you might have seen an orange pin down there on the deck. If the orange pin is placed down by the reset tubes as the head pin, and you throw a strike or a spare, you get entered into a raffle. That's the orange pin pool. I've won a bit of money off of that in some leagues recently. So both bowlers with 1 pin remaining on the deck. Faye Sawyer gets hers. And Rob Brown misses his. Rob Brown for a 9. Faye Sawyer for a 10. Rob Brown at 28 after 3. Faye Sawyer at 35 after 3. Lakeside Lanes uses manual scoring and manual lane resetting, as I mentioned before, with CompuScore being the scoring software used. Faye Sawyer off the head pin to the left. She drops 4, leaving 6 on the deck. Rob Brown doing almost the inverse, dropping 7, leaving 3. Faye Sawyer with the 4 horsemen right side with 2 sleeper pins behind it. The 1, the 3, the 6, the 10, the 5, and the 9 pins. She takes out a few, leaving the 1, the 5, and the 9 pins. Rob Brown misses the 1-3 pocket, hitting the 3-6 pocket instead, leaving just the head pin on lane 23. Faye Sawyer on lane 24, meanwhile, looking at a 7, 8, 9, or 10 box. She will check 8. Rob Brown will take 10. It's 38 after 4 for Rob Brown. 43 after 4 for Faye Sawyer. Takes a look at some stats real quick while we have them on. We have Faye Sawyer. She's been struggling this season, but tonight's a bit of a redemption arc for Faye Sawyer. She's been doing fantastic, scoring rather high tonight up to this point. Faye Sawyer dropping 5. Rob Brown dropping 6. Rob Brown is left with a diamond left side. The 2, the 4, the 5, and the 8 pins. Faye Sawyer is left with the 5, the 3, the 6, the 7, and the 10 pins. Faye Sawyer's leave, I think, may be slightly easier. Let's see if it goes. I think she needed a little bit more punch on that ball for it to go. Rob Brown versus the diamond. The diamond wins again. The 2 and the 5 pins are victorious. Faye Sawyer versus the 5 and the 7 pins. The left side setback is what this shot is called, with a piece of wood. Faye Sawyer will get it, though. That piece of wood assisting for a 10 box. Rob Brown will conclude with an 8 box. Faye Sawyer with 53 in 5. Rob Brown at 46 after 5. We are exactly at halftime here at the Atlanta Candlepin Singles Tour. If you're just tuning in, don't worry, we still have a whole other half to go here, and you can always rewind and watch this later once we finish live streaming. Glad to have you along with us, as always. This is the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour Class B North, a doubleheader match. We have John Alosa, who just dropped 9, getting ahead of me there, leaving just the 3 pin on the deck. Casey McCoole he will drop a lemon, taking out only the 4-pin on the deck. Alosa for a spare, a layup spare. He gets that layup. Casey McCoole was talking to me about basketball and who he thought was going to win tonight with the Celtics game. Showing me his DraftKings bracket. 6-10 on the deck for Casey McCoole on lane 23. Misses the spare, but can he get 10? He will not, surprisingly. Wow, I thought that was going to go, but he'll take a 9. I really thought that was going to go, but unfortunately, no. 55 after 6 for Casey McCoole, 72 plus a ball for John Alosa. Excuse me, 56 after 2. He filled that spare with 1. Forgot Casey was on a spare there. Thank goodness for CompuScore. Let me tell you that. If you're the guy who made CompuScore and you're watching this match, thank you very much for correcting my mistakes. So John Alosa will fill that spare with 4, and he'll get another spare. He's getting spares faster than I can score for 86 plus a ball. John Alosa. Casey McCoole, meanwhile, looking at 4 up, 6 down. My goodness, he just can't catch a break. That piece of wood may be in, maybe out. We'll find out in just a moment. The rule is there is a line at the end of the lane down there, and Faye Sawyer is going to go down and check it. Basically, if the pin is beyond that line, it's out. It is rather difficult to see if it is in or out. Faye Sawyer will be making that call in just a moment. Here she is. Is it in? Is it out? Let's find out. It appears to be out. Thank you, Faye. I was going to say, I really thought it was going to be 50-50 in terms of if it was in or out. So we just wait for Faye Sawyer. And Casey McCoole will check 9. All that for just a 9 box. 65 in 7 for Casey McCoole. 86 plus a ball in 7 for John Alosa. What more can I tell you about John Alosa? His home average is 109.2. His away average is higher at 108.6. His away record is a 1.88 win-loss ratio at 64 and 34 when he's away versus his home record, which is also above 100, but he's at 50 and 48 when he's home. So his away record is better. So filling out spare with 6, but doesn't get the 3rd spare. John Alosa can't get 3 spares in a row, it seems. McCoole with the 4, the 5, and the 7 pins on the deck. And Alosa for the 10 box. He's going to settle for a 9 box, ending his mark streak at 101 after 8. McCoole will take a 7 for 72 after 8. We are winding down the 3rd game here for these 2 bowlers at least. Casey McCoole sitting at 72 after 8, trailing John Alosa at 101 after 8. John Alosa, the spare machine tonight, and he's now a strike machine. That's a strike for John Alosa. Again, Casey McCoole fires on lane 23 on the head pin, and poor guy is just getting ripped off tonight. He's not necessarily missing the object pins, but he's just not really getting the breaks he needs. This is a spare lead for Casey McCoole. He had to hit the 3-6 pocket, and he misses the 3-pin narrowly. Takes out everything but that 3-pin. And he's looking at a 10 box now with a piece of wood in front of it. It should go, provided he hits anywhere but the right cap. But we'll see. And he hits that right cap just as I predicted. I was worried about that. He will take a 9 box, unfortunately, for 81 and 9 for Casey McCoole. Let's talk about Casey McCoole. He's 3rd in B North Division 4. He's ahead of Faye Sawyer, but behind Dave LaRoche and Eric Halley Sr. He's 15th in the wild card. Casey McCoole's high single was 143 versus me in round 4. And his high series was 542 versus Eric Halley Sr. in round 3. John Alosa, he's filling a strike, so the fill is still pending here. That strike fill is going to be a 9. Almost a 10, but 9 for 120 and 9. Casey McCoole with an awkward 4, 5, 7, 8, 10 split. And he will take 9. And John Alosa will take 10 for 130 by my account. That is confirmed to 130 for John Alosa in the 3rd for a 3-game total of 366 for John Alosa. Casey McCoole with a 90 in the third for a 3-game total of 286. John Alosa cannot be caught tonight. 5 marks in this game. My goodness. 1 strike and 4 spares, 130. Casey McCoole with a 2-mark 90. Meanwhile, we have Rob Brown and Faye Sawyer, who are neck and neck with one another mostly. At their half, we have Rob Brown at 46 after 5 and Faye Sawyer at 53 after 5. Rob Brown, he's overall 3rd in B North Division 1, ahead of Joe Moose de Almeida, behind Jake Morrill and John Alosa. He's overall 11th in B North, needs to pass Jake Morrill, Joe Rochelot, and Paul Mativia to clinch a wild card spot as of March 20. Rob Brown's highest single is 143, and he bowled that against Jeff Little in Week 5. His high series is 582, and he bowled that against Dominic Palladino in Week 9. He has 29 strikes, 131 spares, and 154 tens, not counting this match tonight. Both bowlers chopping wood here. No marks to speak of. Brown will take a 7. Faye Sawyer for a 7, 8, 9, or 10 box. What will it be for Faye Sawyer? Lane 23, she fires, and she's going to take a 7 box as well for 60 and 6 for Faye Sawyer and 53 and 6 for Rob Brown. Faye Sawyer has 19 strikes, 111 spares, and 132 tens for the season, not counting this match. Rob Brown punching out the right side, a half Worcester. Faye Sawyer has a 40% perfect box percentage, 6,572 seasonal total pins. Rob Brown, meanwhile, has a 45% perfect box percentage. His seasonal total pins are 7,261. Rob Brown left with the 1 and the 10 pins on the deck. Rob Brown, only 3 of his matches have totaled below 500 this season. He's guaranteed at least 1 strike per match so far, as we saw tonight. Rob Brown will check 10. Faye Sawyer looking at an 8, 9, or 10 now. Rob Brown at 63 after 7. Faye Sawyer at 68, 69, or 70 after 7. A lot of 7s there. It'll be a 9 box for 69 and 7 for Faye Sawyer. Rob Brown has 7th most 10s in the B class at 154, not counting this match. Faye Sawyer has 8 out of 13 games over 500 this match. She has 28 games over 100. And she has a minimum of 5 spares per match up to this point. Rob Brown dropping 6. Faye Sawyer on lane 23, dropping 8. Will be 9. Can we get a 10? Just 9. Rob Brown for his spare leave. He misses the object pin, but he's getting a piece of wood rolling back. But he's left with the 7 pin, just like Faye Sawyer. And Faye Sawyer, we're now working on a spare potentially. Will she get it? Just off, and the piece of wood doesn't help. 9 box for Faye. 10 box for Rob Brown, excuse me. Faye Sawyer's looking at a 9 or a 10 box. On the retry, she'll take a 9. She misses it twice for 78 and 8 for Faye Sawyer. Up by 5 in the match. Compare that to Rob Brown's 73 and 8. 2 boxes to go here to conclude the 3rd game out of 5 at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. If you're just tuning in, welcome. Hope you enjoyed this broadcast. If you've been tuning in, or you've remained tuning in, stay tuned. Don't adjust your set. Rob Brown drops 9, leaving only the 10 pin on the deck. Faye Sawyer dropping 6. Rob Brown for the spare, and he clobbers that pin for a spare. Sometimes you can just tell when a bowler just is hungry for spares. There we go. Trouble with my scoreboard there again. No worries. Faye Sawyer looking at the 1 and the 10 pins on the deck. Can Faye Sawyer do it? She misses. It's going to be an 8 box for Faye Sawyer. 86 and 9. Rob Brown is at 83 plus a ball. That mark may have turned the tide, but we'll see. It all comes down to this fill for Rob Brown now to give him the edge. Rob Brown with 4 out of 14 matches over 550, 11 out of 14 matches over 500. It's going to be a good fill for Rob Brown. It's going to be 7 for 90 and 9. Most recently, Rob Brown faced Casey McCoole in round 14 at Riverwalk Lanes. He took 10 points to Casey's 4, 1 strike, 6 spares, 11 tens. Rob Brown with another spare. That looks like that might be the match, or the game, that is, for Rob Brown, with another spare at 100 plus a ball. Faye Sawyer needs to get the spare to stay in it, and she does not. It's a 9 or 10 box. She's got a maximum of 96 for this game. Rob Brown will take the third game. So Rob Brown will take points this match. We never like to necessarily see shutouts, but that's competition for you. That's 10 box for Faye Sawyer, concluding with a 96 for her third game, with a 3-game total of 315 for Faye Sawyer, averaging over 100. Rob Brown, 3-game total of 301 plus a ball. That ball is, oh my goodness, a 4 fill for 104. Rob Brown finishing with a 3-game total of 305, trailing Faye Sawyer by 10. Faye Sawyer with a 3-game total of 315. Meanwhile, John Alosa had 366 versus Casey McCool's 286. We are at the end of the third game here at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. Hope you've enjoyed this match so far. We're 3 games in, 3 games complete. We have 2 games to go. Plenty of bowling to go here, folks. We're going to move on to the 4th game now. We have Casey McCoole and John Alosa returning to the approaches here on this Friday night at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. Casey McCoole on your right on lane 24. He has 25 strikes, 117 spares, and 152 tens for the season, not counting this match. Perfect box percentage of 42% for Casey McCoole. John Alosa dropping 9. It looked like it was a hammer, but the 7-pin stays. Casey McCoole with 7,013 seasonal total pins. He misses that spare. John Alosa versus the 7-pin. Will he get it? He misses it. Both bowlers missing their spares. Now for 10 boxes. Casey McCoole for his 10. He misses it too. Oh my goodness, that piece of wood robs him. And that'll be a 10 box for John Alosa. So Casey McCoole, he's got some superlatives. He's got the 9th most 10s in B class. He has 6 out of 14 matches over 500. He has 3 games over 120. And with the exception of 1 match, he averages a minimum of 5 spares per match. That's Casey McCoole for you. He racked up more than 10 boxes in 10 out of 14 matches. That's a tongue twister for you. John Alosa, wow, that 6-pin was really deciding if it wanted to go up or down. Couldn't decide what it was going to be. Casey McCoole, unfortunately, missing that layup of a spare. He misfires to the right. John Alosa, he also misses. Both bowlers missing spares here. Uncharacteristic, especially John Alosa tonight. And Casey will check 10. McCoole will check 10. Alosa will check 9. Casey McCoole recently, again, versus Rob Brown. Casey McCoole recently faced Rob Brown at Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts in round 14. He took 4 points to Rob's 10 with a 464 series, averaging 92.8. Casey McCoole fires right in the pocket, leaving the 3 and the 5 pins. In that match against Rob Brown, Casey had a rough stretch of 5 games, all under 100. John Alosa looking at a difficult spare leave. Casey missing his spare leave as well. John Alosa with the 1, the 2, the 5, the 9, and the 10 pins for a spare leave. He fires and he misses. The 1, the 2, the 5, and the 10 pins are left for John Alosa. Casey McCoole is looking at just the 3 pin on the deck. And he takes that 3 pin. Checks 10. Alosa will take 7. He'll take 7 for 27 after 3 for McCoole and 26 after 3 for Alosa. John Alosa has 37 strikes, 145 spares, and 163 tens this season. Not counting this match, he has a perfect box percentage of 49%. He has a seasonal total pins of 7,621. Casey McCoole dropping 9, Alosa dropping 6. McCoole for his spare. He gets that spare. That spare he's been looking for. Oops. John Alosa still fishing for marks. John Alosa will check 10 again. Second time this half. 36-4 for John Alosa, 37 plus a ball for Casey McCoole. Casey McCoole is finally getting that break with that spare. This is now his chance to regain some ground. He fires. That spare fill is 7. 44 after 4 for McCoole. Alosa, though, on the pocket. He leaves the 4 and the 10 pins standing. John Alosa has the third most 10 boxes in the B class at 163. He is 10th for most strikes in B class. McCoole misses that spare, unfortunately. Alosa for his spare, he just takes out 1. John Alosa has 6 matches over 550, 1 match over 600, 7 games over 130. He has rolled 134 3 times this season, twice in round 7 and once in round 11. Casey McCoole checks 10 to conclude with 54 for the half. John Alosa will take a 9 box for 49 after 5. Here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Great as always to have you along with us. We are just a quarter of the way, really, through the 4th game here. Great to have you along. Again, I can't repeat that enough. We have Faye Sawyer and Rob Brown taking the approaches on lanes 23 and 24 in Manchester, New Hampshire. At Lakeside Lanes, here's a look at Rob Brown. While we take a look, he's 11th place, current position, versus Faye Sawyer, 16th. My apologies for not showing the slides a little bit more. Doubleheader gives me a little less time to do that. Faye Sawyer drops 8, the 1 and the 8 pins on the deck. Rob Brown with the 4 horsemen left side, the 1, the 2, the 4, and the 7 pins on the deck. Spare leaves for both our bowlers here. Faye Sawyer misses that 1 and 8 pin shot. Rob Brown also misses his spare. Both bowlers missing their spare leaves. Faye Sawyer recently faced Jake Morrill at Lakeside Lanes in round 13. Unfortunately, she took 0 points in that match. Faye Sawyer will take a 10 box there, though. And so will Rob Brown. Both bowlers recovering with 10s, pinning it out. Good outs for both. 10 after 1 for both. Rob Brown and Faye Sawyer are only 10 pins apart in this match. To recap, the winner of each string takes 2 points. The winner of the grand total takes 4 points for a complete set of 14 points they're competing for. Faye Sawyer dropping 7, Rob Brown dropping 6. Spare leaves all around. 3, 6, 10 for Faye Sawyer, the 3, 6, 10 Mafia. She misses it. Rob Brown hits the object pin, but a little bit too full. Pins are not going tonight. Despite hitting it fairly well, Rob Brown does not get a break. Faye Sawyer now for a 10 box. She will check 8. Rob Brown will take a 9. 8 and 9. So we have 18 after 2 for Faye Sawyer, 19 after 2 for Rob Brown. Again, very tight match, but Faye Sawyer has a slight edge. So when Faye Sawyer faced Jake Morrill at Lakeside Lane, she had 0 strikes, 7 spares, and 19 10s. It was a rough match. She only seriesed 460. Faye Sawyer's home house is Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. She's a caregiver for Home Instead. Rob Brown, meanwhile, his home house is Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts. Rob Brown not converting the spare there. 10 boxes now. When Rob Brown was facing Casey McCoole, Riverwalk Lanes, he had a 501 series, and the best game was his 4th at 124. I also covered that match, so if you want to go back and watch the stream for that, go right ahead. Faye Sawyer takes 8. Rob Brown takes 8. Bowlers definitely staying competitive with one another. Faye Sawyer sitting at 26 after 3. Rob Brown at 27 after 3. Faye Sawyer on lane 24. She fires. She's on the pocket. She drops 9. Rob Brown punches out hard. The spread eagle. The 2, the 3, the 4, the 6, the 7, and the 10 pins. The classic spread eagle. The traditional academic spread eagle. Faye Sawyer for her spare. She misses the 7 pin narrowly to the right. Rob Brown fires, and oh no, he sails right through the blank space of the eagle. I know the frustration of that shot. It could have been a double strike, but you end up getting this. And Faye Sawyer will miss again for a 9-box. Rob Brown will take 6, a frustrating 6, despite 2 pocket shots. 1 hit, 1 missed. 33 after 4 for Rob Brown, 35 after 4 for Faye Sawyer. I've seen Rob Brown bowl both righty and lefty. Seems to be somewhat ambidextrous when it comes to bowling. He throws a very hard fastball. Rob Brown works for DoorDash. Faye Sawyer drops a handful of pins, a respectable handful. Rob Brown drops 7. Faye Sawyer will have a pretty spare if she can connect with the 1-2 pocket or the invisible 1-3 pocket. Will she spare it? She misses it. The 1, the 6, and the 10 pins now. For Faye Sawyer, Rob Brown hits 2 full on the 2 and the 8 pins, leaving the 10 pin on the deck. Faye Sawyer for a 10-box. And Rob Brown for a 10-box. Faye Sawyer fires, lane 24. She will take a 10. She checks 10. Well-deserved 10. Rob Brown for the 10. He will take a 9. So Rob Brown is down by 3 at the half, 42 to Faye Sawyer's 45. Every bowler has finished the first half of the 4th game here. Alosa is up 411 to Casey McCool's 340. Rob Brown 347 to Faye Sawyer's 360. Faye Sawyer and John Alosa are the current leaders of their respective matchups tonight. So we're going to switch back to Casey McCoole and John Alosa. John Alosa on lane 24 leading off. He fires, misses the head pin to the right. 4 horsemen left side with the 9 pin. Casey McCoole, he fires on lane 23. He takes out the 4 pins, sends it into next week, drops some lemons. John Alosa on lane 24 for the spare, and he nearly gets it. He runs down the left side, 4 horsemen, leaving the 9 pin on the deck. Casey McCoole punches full on his lemon drop, leaving the 2, the 6, and the 10 pins on the deck. John Alosa will check 10. Casey McCoole will check. He'll check 7 into some kind of hotel. 61 and 6 for Casey McCoole. 55 and 6 for John Alosa. You are watching the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, this Friday night doubleheader action, this Class B North doubleheader action between Casey McCoole versus John Alosa and Rob Brown versus Faye Sawyer. John Alosa on the right on lane 24, the away bowler, versus Casey McCoole, the home bowler at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. Neither bowler making much of their first ball. John Alosa missing a spare opportunity. Casey McCoole with a bundle of pins down the center, a bouquet of pins, and he takes those bouquet of pins and he, I don't know, does something with them. He takes a spare. The short of it. That's a 9-box for John Alosa. 71 plus a ball for Casey McCoole and 7. John Alosa at 64 and 7. Casey McCoole, I think for the first time this match, is ahead of John Alosa in a game. Casey McCoole, Indiana Jones himself, for as close as you can get. He works as a clerk cashier at the NH State Liquor and Wine Outlet. He's great at car repair. He's from Derry, New Hampshire, went to Pickerton Academy class of 2010. His home lanes are here, Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. Look at that fill by Casey McCoole. Oh, my goodness. That's a 3 fill, unfortunately. Can hardly blame him for that shot. You know, that's Candlepin bowling for you. Signs you just get manhandled by shots that should have gone or shots that shouldn't have gone but do go. Welcome to the sport. John Alosa versus the left side 4 horsemen, leaving only the 2 for a 9-box. Casey McCoole will follow up with a 9-box as well, both checking 9. Alosa with 73 after 8. McCoole up by 10, 83 after 8. Your score update. Casey McCoole is very knowledgeable about Apple products and resale values. I spoke to him about Apple Watches and the like. We had a very nice conversation about that. And John Alosa drops 6. The 1, the 4, the 7, and the 9 pins. Casey McCoole also drops 6. That is the zigzag, the 4, the 5, the 7, and the 8 pins. John Alosa for the spare, and he takes out everything but the head pin because he missed the head pin. Casey McCoole for his spare, much more difficult spare. Takes out nothing. I haven't heard Casey McCoole say pull the string tonight. That's his catchphrase when he throws a strike, and he has thrown at least 1 strike tonight. Casey McCool's bowling balls are a mix of Cobras and Vipers. He curves the ball right to center, similar to Chris Curley's release. McCoole will take 8. John will take 9. One box to go here in the 4th. John Alosa on the head pin, dropping 7, possibly 8. Nope, just 7. The 3, the 6, and the 10 pins left on the deck. The 3, 6, 10 Mafia. Casey McCoole on lane 23, dropping 7. Wood still settling, but it looks like the 2, the 8, and the 10 pins on the deck. For the spare for John Alosa, and it's a heartbreaker. The 6 pin remains, despite him hitting the object pin. Casey McCoole is a much more difficult shot. He has to do something with the front pin, the 2 pin there. He has to pinball off a sidewall, and the ball also has to go the opposite direction. Let's see if he can do that. Will it go? Well, it almost goes. The pin behind the 2 pin stayed. That pin behind the 2 pin is the 8 pin. Alosa will check 9. Fishing for a pin in the wall, but he can't find it. That's a 10 box for Casey McCoole. Casey McCoole will just barely take the game by 10. So Casey McCoole will go home with points tonight. He's at 101 after 4. John Alosa with an uncharacteristic 91 after 10 here in the 4th. But Alosa's still up in the total, 457 4-game total. Casey McCoole with a 4-game total of 387. Impressive showing by John Alosa, but he doesn't go perfect. He will cede at least 2 points to Casey McCoole tonight. So we're going to switch back to Rob Brown and Faye Sawyer. I don't know if I've shown you Rob Brown's stats tonight, but again, he is 11th overall in the league, the ACST league, that is. I don't think he's out of the playoffs just yet, and he's actually been kind of on a bit of a redemption arc recently. A couple more decent matches, and he'll be in good standing. He's only about 3 places out of the wild card, if my memory serves. Pulling up my next-gen stats to confirm that. He needs to pass Jake Morrill, Joe Rocheleau, and Paul Mativia to clinch a wild card spot. Both bowlers missing their spare opportunities. Now they're left with 9s or 10s. Rob Brown versus the head pin. Will he get it? He will get it. That's a 10 box for Rob Brown. Cleaning up. Faye Sawyer with her cleanup shot. And she will get that as well. She checks 10. 55 after 6 for Faye Sawyer. 52 after 6 for Rob Brown. With 4 boxes to go in the 4th out of 5 games here in this doubleheader Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour Class B North action. John Alosa versus Casey McCoole and Rob Brown at Faye Sawyer. Appreciate you guys watching this wherever you are, however you are. Doesn't matter. If you're watching it, that's great. Rob Brown drops 7, the 1, the 2, and the 7 pins on lane 24 at Lakeside Lanes. Faye Sawyer on lane 23 at Lakeside Lanes. Misses the head pin, but a favorable shot, or favorable leave, that is. Rob Brown for his spare, he misses the object pin. Faye Sawyer is looking at the 1, the 7, the 8, and the 9 pins with a wiggly 9. Piece of wood to the right of the 1 pin. Faye Sawyer fires. Lane 23. Will it go? It's a good offer, but unfortunately, some offers just aren't taken. Rob Brown for the 10 box. He'll check 8. Faye Sawyer looking at an 8, 9, or 10 box. 7 and 9 on the deck. With wood, she'll take a 9 box. For 64 and 7, Rob Brown at 60 after 7. Faye Sawyer up in the match overall, 379 to Rob Brown's 365. It is close. But Faye Sawyer has been putting up an impressive string-to-string competition here. Rob Brown, lane 24. And off he goes. That's a spread eagle, but spread eagle minus the 7 pin. So it's 5 down, 5 up. Faye Sawyer now on the head pin as well, but she throws lighter and takes a few more out. That's the 6, 7, 10 split. Rob Brown versus a partially broken eagle. He breaks the eagle down to just a piece of a wing. The 2 and the 4 pins on the deck. You'll be all right. Stay focused. Not easy, you know? It's not. Rob Brown will check 9. Faye Sawyer will also check 9. Excuse me, Faye Sawyer's not at 9 yet. Faye Sawyer's at 10. My apologies. It was consoling Casey McCoole off camera here. Okay, they will both check 9. 73 after 8 for Faye Sawyer. 69 and 8 for Rob Brown. 2 boxes to go. They're both, again, fairly neck and neck. A mark really will determine this match at this point. It's coming down to, once again, another somewhat sudden death kind of game. Faye Sawyer dropping a selection of pins. Rob Brown on 7. Takes one more out for 8. 2 in the 4 pins on the deck. This is Faye Sawyer's spare ball now. Spare leave. 1, 2, 4, 5, 8, and 9. Takes out everything but the 5. The 5 is wiggling but doesn't go. Faye Sawyer throws her hands up in frustration. Rob Brown checks 10. Pinning it out. Rob Brown with a markless 79 after 9. Faye Sawyer now versus the 5 pin. Faye Sawyer fires for a 10. 83 and 9 for Faye Sawyer now. With 1 box to go. Both bowlers markless here in the 4th. 79 to 83. Faye Sawyer up by just a few pins. Rob Brown, known for strikes. Let's see if he can pull one out right now. Rob Brown fires. Lane 24 on the pocket. Takes 7 out. It's an ugly leave. I don't like it. Lane, it's the 2 pin, the 6 pin, and the 10 pin. Faye Sawyer fires. She misses off the head pin by just an inch or 2, leaving the 4 horsemen left side. Rob Brown trying to get that mark, going for this trick shot, but he can't get it. Faye Sawyer needs to run down the 4 horsemen left side to really take this match at this point. Otherwise, it's just going to be a shootout, more or less. She takes just 1 more out, 7 and 7. Rob Brown will check 9. Rob Brown will check 9, concluding his game at 88. Faye Sawyer, 7, 8, 9, or 10 box. What's it going to be? It's going to be a 7 box for 90. Faye Sawyer is going to take the 4th game, 90 to Rob Brown's 88. She takes it by 2. And 101 to 91, Casey McCoole taking the 4th game. So Casey McCoole and Faye Sawyer, our home bowlers, taking the 4th game, defending the house. Defending the house that is Lakeside Lanes. Ain't nobody going to knock it down. So that's the conclusion of the 4th game. Faye Sawyer, 4-game total of 405. John Alosa, 4-game total of 457. There are leaders for this match. Casey McCoole, the 4-game total of 387. Rob Brown at 393. But we're now going to move on to the 5th and final game. The 5th and final game is important because it determines if any bowler has a blockbuster game, it can sway the total in their favor, giving them 4 additional points for the match. And in some cases, that can mean the world. Casey McCoole with a 5-7-10 split. 7 down, 3 up. Piece of wood. Slightly in front of the 5 pin. If you hit it just right, it might go. Casey has a curve that favors it, and there it is. That was a pretty spare by Casey McCoole, just as we drew it up in the locker room. Spare for Casey McCoole. John Alosa misses his spare. The 3, the 4, and the 7 pins. But he has a pretty 10 box. John Alosa following up with a 10. It's 10 after 1 for both bowlers, but Casey McCoole has an extra fill to take a lead, provided he doesn't gutter ball it. Casey McCoole following up a blockbuster spare 5-7-10 split. He drops 4. A frustrating 4 despite hitting the head pin. John Alosa also dropping 5. Wow. Look at these leaves. These leaves have been gnarly tonight. Comes down to who can make the weirdest leave for a spare. So McCoole, after that 4 fill, he checks a couple more down for the 6 and the 10 pins left on the deck. John Alosa taking a few more as well. Both bowlers looking at 8, 9, or 10 box now. And it's going to be a 10 box for McCoole. Excellent pinning. And 10 box for Alosa as well. Casey McCoole up by 4 after 2, 24 to 20. McCoole with the only mark of the game so far, but it's still early. I was consoling Casey. He was somewhat down in the dumps after his performance tonight. I wouldn't say he's bowling badly. He's just getting kind of ripped off here and there. John Alosa, meanwhile, he's dropping 9, 9.5 or so. That 10 pin, I swear, is not standing straight. But Casey McCoole with a 7-10 split with wood. If he hits the wood, play the wood, Casey. He kind of does, but not quite at the angles that were necessary. But John Alosa missing his spare as well. Both bowlers looking at 9s or 10s. Casey had a more favorable spare leave, but he missed it. And he also misses the 10 for a 9. And John Alosa will check 10, winning the box, winning the skin. 30 after 3 for John Alosa. He's bowling. He hasn't missed anything so far. 3 10s in a row, 30 after 3. Casey McCoole still up by 3 with a 9 box. With 2 to go before our bowlers sit to conclude the first half of the final time tonight. Alosa off the head pin to the right. The 1, the 2, the 5, and the 9 pins on the deck. And McCoole, actually, I don't know if I missed it, but I don't know if he possibly got a gutter ball there. I looked away for half a second, may have missed it, so I'll pause to see what that was all about. Alosa, though, misses his spare opportunity regardless. And Casey, that might be a 6 box. We'll find out in just a moment. That is a 6 box for Casey and a 9 box for Alosa. Yes, he did go to that first one, I guess. 39 after 4 for Alosa, 39 after 4 from McCoole. John Alosa, despite going markless, the consistency is what's keeping him afloat here, and Casey McCoole faltering with that 6 box. Our bowlers are now tied in the game. Casey with a, wow, missing the headpin to the right and only taking out 3. John Alosa, powerful 9 drop. Throws a bomb of a ball and takes out everything but the 7 pin. Obviously, John Alosa's spare opportunity is a little bit easier. I have heard that single pin spares can be psychologically harder, though, even though physically they're not really that difficult. See, just like that. John Alosa might have attempted to play the wood there, unless it was a mistake of a throw. Casey McCoole, my goodness. No luck for this man tonight. It's left with the 8 and the 10 on the deck. John Alosa will check 10. Casey McCoole will take 8. As the end of the final first half of the night for these two. Alosa at 5:06, McCoole at 4:34. And at the half, John Alosa sits at 49 after 5. Casey McCoole sits at 47 after 5, down by 2, despite having a mark. Alosa markless, 4 10s and a 9, though. Sometimes consistency is all you need in Candlepin bowling, especially if it's a head-to-head match like this, where the pressure is oddly high. And we now have Faye Sawyer and Rob Brown starting their first half for the final time tonight. Faye Sawyer fires down lane 24 at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire, leaving the 5, the 6, and the 10 pins on the deck. Rob Brown, first ball, off the head pin to the right, 4 horsemen left side plus the 8 pin. Faye Sawyer, right side setback plus the 6. She gets it. That was a really nice spare by Faye Sawyer. And so does Rob Brown, not to be outdone. Both bowlers finishing their first box with a spare apiece. Rob Brown running it down. Faye Sawyer conquering the setback plus some additional wood. So this is what you see the orange pin as the head pin. I was talking about the orange pin pull at Lakeside. And if you get a strike or a spare while the head pin is standing as orange at the beginning of the box, then that puts you in a raffle during leagues, as long as you enter the pool. Faye Sawyer will take 7 on the fill. Rob Brown will take 8 on the fill. Spare leave opportunity. Faye Sawyer for the spare. Looks good. Well, on paper it looked good. She's left with a 4-7. Rob Brown also missing his spare. Just the 8 pin left on the deck. Faye Sawyer for 10. She will take 9. Rob Brown for 10. He will take 10. Amazing. 28 after 2 for Rob Brown, 26 after 2 for Faye Sawyer. Neck and neck once again. Seems to be the theme of the night for these two bowlers in particular. Faye Sawyer on lane 24. She's getting ready to fire, and she fires. First ball, third box, the 1, the 3, the 8, the 9, the 10. 5 down, 5 up for Faye Sawyer. Rob Brown with a bomb of a strike. Haven't seen one of those in a couple of games, but he does not disappoint. Rob Brown with the strike. Oops. Rob Brown with a strike. Faye Sawyer left with the 1 and the 10 pins. Just thinking long and hard about it. Faye Sawyer still thinking about it. Still thinking. And here she goes. Just off the headpin to the right. It's going to be an 8-box 4. Faye Sawyer, she says, after all that time and I missed it, she says. Don't you love when you sit long and hard thinking about a shot, thinking you're going to calculate it all and then you miss? I've been there. Definitely happens all the time. Faye Sawyer fires first ball off the headpin to the right, 4 horsemen left side plus a 9 pin on the deck. Rob Brown on a strike, working on a strike. He fires. Same shot. Both bowlers with the same leave. 4 horsemen left side plus a 9 pin for both. Rob Brown 5 so far on the fill with 1 more to go. Faye Sawyer misses the pocket, doesn't run it down, leaving the 1, the 2, and the 9 pins. Rob Brown on his shot, 6 fill total. He leaves the 4 horsemen left side complete. Faye Sawyer 1, 2, 9 for a 10 box. She will whoop. It's going to be a 7 box for Faye Sawyer and a 9 box for Rob Brown. 41 after 4 for Faye Sawyer, 53 after 4 for Rob Brown. With 1 to go before they sit, and then we will be on to the final half for all 4 bowlers in this doubleheader action tonight. I'm sorry, Faye Sawyer already threw her ball. Lingered too long on the scoreboard there. She drops 8, leaving the 5 and the 10. Rob Brown is in another strike. It's another strike. 2 in the same half for Rob Brown. Rob Brown on fire, as he might say. Faye Sawyer, not to be outdone, will take a mark as well. My goodness. Again, they're marking faster than I can react. So 63 open with Rob Brown's 3 mark first half of the 5th game. 63 plus 2 balls for Rob Brown. 51 plus a ball for Faye Sawyer at the half. This is Class B, folks. Don't let the letter deceive you. Bowlers are bowling spectacular tonight. Faye Sawyer in particular. Faye Sawyer's been bowling incredible tonight. John Alosa leads off. Not on a fill, but he drops certainly a few pins. Casey McCoole working to do the same. He misses the head pin to the left. So we got for leaves. John Alosa has to hit the 2 pin. And he doesn't, but some pins fall as a consolation. The 2 and the 4. Casey McCoole needed to hit the 1-3 pocket, but misses, punches straight out the right side half Worcester, and a couple extra friends to go along. Alosa will check 10 again. And Casey will check 9. John Alosa has bowled 5 10s this game so far, with 1 9, breaking the perfect streak. Casey McCoole at 56 after 6. So it's funny, John Alosa just being the Zen master. No marks, but slowly catching up and surpassing Casey McCoole. Alosa dropping 6, and McCoole nearly with a strike. Thought it was a strike for a minute with his hand obscuring the zoom cam, leaving only the 5 pin. Alosa for a spare. Lane 24. Oh, he kisses the head pin, but not on the right side. He's left with the 8 and the 10. Casey McCoole, single pin spare. Ball doesn't curve enough. Both bowlers fighting for a 10 now. Alosa, 8, 9, or 10. He will take 10. And McCoole for 9 or 10 now. McCoole for 9 or 10. It's going to be a 9, just barely missing the 5 pin there. 65 and 7 for McCoole. 69 and 7 for John Alosa. Another 10 box. Once again, another 10 box for John Alosa. 6 10s this game. It's the 10 show, and John Alosa's running it. Alosa on the head pin, the 1-2 pocket, drops 7. The 5, the 8, and the 9. Casey McCoole not so lucky with a half Worcester right side plus a friend. And that's a spare for John Alosa. First spare of the match, breaking the streak of 10s. Casey McCoole now. This will be a pretty spare if it goes. But it's a difficult shot. Just have to hit a pocket. And he's on the pocket. He leaves all but the 6. But I wouldn't have hit it any differently, though. See, this is one of those shots where it's like, it can go. And sometimes it's just luck. Casey will check 10. 75 after 8 for Casey McCoole. 79 plus a ball after 8 for John Alosa. With 2 to go for these bowlers. 536 to 462 for John Alosa in the lead. John Alosa with a strike. Strike on spare. And Casey McCoole is, unfortunately, he's going to have to really pull out some blockbusters here to catch up now. That's a left side half Worcester. Hitting very full on that first ball, overthrowing it just a little bit too much each time. McCoole for the spare upper. Oh my goodness. He chips out the 3-pin, excavates the 3-pin, leaving everything else safe. 3 so far. And oh man, Casey getting robbed. That's a 5 box, a hard fought 5 box. Never missed a pin, but he didn't get much either. My goodness. I don't know what advice to provide about that. That was just Casey McCoole getting robbed for sure. All right, John Alosa on a strike, working on a strike. He hits the pocket, and pins are still wiggling. It's 6 so far. McCoole punches out once again. The 3rd punch out in a row for Casey McCoole. This time on the right side, the 3 and the 9 pins sent to the hospital. John Alosa filling a strike, possibly a spare. He does spare it. That is a spare for John Alosa, the 3rd mark in a row. Looking to finish strong, 119 plus a ball. Casey McCoole just trying to get anything. He's going to conclude with a 7 box for an unfortunate 87. A hard-fought 87, honestly. To conclude for a 5-game total of 474 for Casey McCoole. John Alosa sitting at 119 plus a ball. And that ball is going to be 5-ish, 6-ish. We'll call it 6. He's at 125. 125, John Alosa rallying at the end with a nearly perfect game. The 4 box, the 4th box was the only one that wasn't a 10 or higher. Casey McCoole at 87 in the 5th. John Alosa for a 5-game total of 582. Casey McCoole for a 5-game total of 474. John Alosa the victor tonight, for sure. Casey McCoole, I believe, only took 2 points. We will evaluate that at the very end. Meanwhile, Rob Brown and Faye Sawyer will step up to the approaches for their final 5 boxes of the night. Folks, if you're new to the world of Candlepin bowling content, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope this was a pleasant viewing experience for all of you. If you enjoyed what you saw and you'll want to see more, I invite you to strike, comment, and subscribe to the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on Facebook, as well as Candlepin Bowling Network, Candlepin Corner, Alley Chat, and the Candlepin Bowling Channel, where all kinds of other videos, streams, and productions are regularly posted, in addition to results and statistics. Rob Brown fills 9, by the way. And it looks like a 9 box. And Faye Sawyer filled with 6. 7, 8, 9, or 10 for Faye Sawyer. It's going to be a 7 box. 64 and 6 for Faye Sawyer. 81 and 6 for Rob Brown. Of course, if you're a returning viewer to the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, it's great to have you along once again, and I hope you enjoyed this program. Special thanks, before we wrap up tonight, to our ACST League Commissioner, Danny Finn. Our next-gen stats powered by Micah Imperato, armed with Microsoft Excel. Brian Hebert for statistical graphics used in this broadcast. The staff at Lakeside Lanes. And you. Thank you for watching. You know, I wouldn't do this without you. Rob Brown missing the spare. Faye Sawyer on a spare. As she fires on lane 23. And it dances around. She hits the object pin and doesn't play nice. Rob Brown checks 10 for 91 and 7. Faye Sawyer looking at a potential 74 and 7. Will she get it? We'll find out. Stay tuned. And that's, nope. That's going to be a 9 box for Faye Sawyer. 73 after 7. Rob Brown taking a somewhat comfortable lead here in the fifth, 91-7 versus Faye Sawyer 73-7. We will analyze the point spread towards the end, but Faye Sawyer so far has had a great night, but the total is up for grabs between these two bowlers. It's much closer. Rob Brown dropping 7, 5, 6, 10. Faye Sawyer on lane 23. She releases off to the left of the head pin. 1, 3, 5, 8, and 9 pins. Rob Brown with another spare. His third mark of the game. Fourth mark of the game, excuse me. Second spare of the game. For 101 plus a ball after 8. Faye Sawyer looking at 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 now. The 1, the 5, the 3, and the 9 pins on the deck for a 10 box. Faye Sawyer fires lane 23, and that's an 8 box for Faye Sawyer. 81 after 8. And Rob Brown is filling a spare at 101 after 8. Rob Brown's high single for the series, might I remind you, 143 for the high single 143, high series 582. He's at 494 at the moment for the series and 101 for the game in the 8th. Rob Brown fills it with 6. Doesn't get the follow-up mark, though. He's at 107 after 8. No mark in the 9th for Rob Brown. Faye Sawyer, 7, 8, 9, or 10 box. And it will be an 8 box. No, sorry, not an 8 box, not yet. Rob Brown will check 9. Faye Sawyer for an 8, 9, or 10 box. It will be a 10 box for Faye Sawyer. Cleaning it up. 91 after 9 for Faye Sawyer. 116 after 9 for Rob Brown. Rob Brown has taken the total at this point. He might be taking another 4. He might be taking 6 points this game if he can hold it together. But at this point, I think mathematically it might be effectively impossible for Faye at this point. Rob Brown dropping 6, leaving the diamond right side on lane 24 at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. The 3, the 5, the 6, and the 9 pins. Faye Sawyer fires first ball, and that should just about do it. Rob Brown will be taking 6 points this match. This game, that is. I believe it's going to be at least 8 points total. Rob Brown missing that spare. Faye Sawyer needs to run down the spread eagle. 4 horsemen left side, that is. 1, 2, 4, 7. She does. She knocks a pin into the next lane. She knocks a pin into lane 22. So Faye will take a spare for the road. Rob Brown taking a 9. Rob Brown finishing with 125. Faye Sawyer at 101. Plus a ball. Faye Sawyer will fill that with 5. Rob Brown will take the total. It'll be close, but it was a close total. 518. Rob Brown victorious over Faye Sawyer, 511 total-wise. And the 5th game, that's at least 6 points for Rob Brown. Meanwhile, John Alosa and Casey McCoole, it's a little less close. John Alosa with a 582 5-game total versus Casey McCoole's 474. And let me just take a brief moment to show you a couple of final stats here. Just bear with me one moment while we prepare that. So we have, my apologies, I had this put together before. So we have, let's look at Casey McCoole and John Alosa first. So Alosa will move from 114.82 to 126.84, taking 12 points for the night. Casey McCoole taking 2 points in Game 4 with a 101 to 91 for against John Alosa. And so congratulations to John Alosa. And then let's take a look at Rob Brown and Faye Sawyer. Oops. My apologies, There we go. Rob Brown and Faye Sawyer, my apologies. Rob Brown will move from 86 and 110 to 94 and 116, taking 8 points for the night. Faye Sawyer, though, taking 6 points for the night, so neither bowler should go home too dissatisfied. It was a slugfest with Faye Sawyer looking at first like she was going to take it all until the third game when Rob Brown took the third game. Faye Sawyer clawing back the fourth game, but Rob Brown taking 6 points in the fifth game for a total of 8. And so Rob Brown will go with 8 points. Faye Sawyer will go with 6 points. And that should just about do it from us here at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. It's been a pleasure having you along with us. And everyone here, thanks you for watching. I've been Steve Kelly along with Faye Sawyer, Rob Brown, Casey McCoole, and John Alosa. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, I invite you to strike, comment, and subscribe to our other Candlepin channels, such as the Friday Night Pro League on Candlepin Bowling Network on YouTube. Also check out Candlepin Corner on YouTube for the Candlepin Skins Show, which is airing now. If you're into podcasts, there's also Candlepin shows such as The Approach and Ripping the Rack, so check those out if you feel so inclined. So from everyone here, I've been Steve Kelly, and I hope you have a fantastic evening and a fantastic weekend. Have a great one, everybody.